Greetings, adventurers. My name is Joe Lastly, and I'm going to be talking about Lead+RPG from Game Dynamic Leadership. This is the combination of leadership and tabletop role-playing games. And I'm doing so, of course, with thanks to many collaborators that have contributed to all the different projects, research, publications, co-authors, mentors, students, and of course, fellow players that I've played with that have all contributed to reaching this point. So for the scope of today's presentation, I'm going to be talking about a culmination, not any one research project or any one implementation or application, but the culmination of my research over many years and practice directly with leadership and group dynamics in tabletop role-playing games. This includes many different publications and types of research, ranging from content analysis, group observations, interviews, focus groups, quantitative measurements like psychological safety, creating an instrument to measure facilitation in our role-playing games, creativity, and the like, and action research cycles that are ongoing. I have used what we've been learning and developing for pedagogy in classrooms and other leadership learning settings as a form of experiential learning. I've also done coaching groups using role-playing games as the vehicle for coaching, leadership development retreats, multi-day immersive experiences, doing leadership development and role-playing games. Ongoing programs for senior leaders and teams in companies, and even workshops starting from 45 or 90 minutes all the way up to full day or multi-day, or even recurring sessions over the course of several months. So there's a lot of different things that have gone into creating the Lead+RPG so far. To get us started, what do we mean by TRPG? And I think what's really fascinating for me in my view of all of this is that my definition of analog role-playing game, which could be tabletop or live action, although we focused most specifically on tabletop, is that this definition, to me, also serves as a definition of leadership. TRPGs are interactive social activities where participants collaboratively create narratives by assuming fictional roles within a shared imaginative framework. Analog RPGs serve as dynamic platforms for experiential learning, fostering collective creativity and contributing to the development of leadership practice. Along with this view of leadership, I also view leadership as something we experience, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So when we add to the TRPG, the Lead+RPG, this is an evolution of TRPG. So what we do is we integrate, along with the existing role-playing game, developmental coaching, which is a top development activity for leadership development. We focus on metacognition. This is the key to leadership. No matter what you're trying to do, learn, practice, develop, exercise leadership. The ability to see our own thinking and the way that our thinking works in groups and the mental models of groups, that's metacognition. And that's a prerequisite for being able to exercise leadership and develop leadership. Additionally, we take advantage of the synchronicity that happens through improvisation and storytelling and those meaningful, seemingly disconnected moments that unconsciously just appear to us during an experience, to use as a case in point, that its existence and noticing it happening and examining it as it's happening provides embodied insight. This is not just the content or the conceptual way of knowing, but also an embodied experience. We feel it in our bodies and we know it in our way of being. And then we capitalize on the debriefing potential of TRPGs to do transformational debriefing. This is how we crystallize change and learning transfer. We have different levels of debriefing, which starts with what are we experiencing? How do we feel with the different emotions? This could be about the game and or the play, the gameplay, as it were. What learning is happening and is available for us to actually learn and adapt our thinking and our ways of knowing through reflection. And then how can we transfer that learning? And do we see parallels, or is it a mirror for taking to other contexts outside the game with this different understanding we get through our experiential reflection. What we get out of this as a leadership development activity is that individuals discover personal insights and role awareness, being able to play different roles and switch between multiple hats in an organization, or to take up similar roles in different ways and develop a repertoire. This approach creates a supportive environment for reflective practice and coaching, which are excellent leadership development activities. And key things that we can add, just the space to be able to do reflective practice and coaching. Groups in the Lead RPG develop psychological safety with cohesion, shared imagination, and engaging in meaning making. And this allows for that type of learning within a group setting. And we can then further take that by integrating the playful norms of a group and its creativity into a creative learning organization. And this is how Lead RPG contributes to the organization, the team, the experience of providing space for this type of learning and individual insight. So when I said leadership is something we experience, let's talk a little bit more about this view of leadership. Leadership happens when we are co-designing a shared experience. Leadership is a function of groups. It's inherently social. Human beings are inherently social. And so we are in groups, even when we are not physically in groups. We are always members of groups and operating as groups. And groups are always impacting us. And a key function of groups is this leadership process. Along with being human nature, there are these things that are in different forms, universal across the human experience in all cultures. Things like leadership, storytelling, roles, play. These are all innate aspects of the human experience. Leadership in particular is when people become agents of changing the system in which they are embedded. We are part of groups and social systems, and we gain the metacognition and agency to be able to affect those systems. And this is being able to shape and be shaped by a culture at the same time. And so this idea of becoming agents of changing the system in which we are embedded, or players becoming designers of a game in which they are playing, or an experience and story in which they are telling, is an idea of leadership from Burns in Transforming Leadership, and becoming mutual shapers and shaped by the culture is a definition from Paulo Freire's view. So more about this co-designing a shared experience view is that leadership is a collaborative process rooted in collective meaning making, similar to Viktor Frankl's idea that we are inherently meaning making beings. That is what it means to be human, or what it is to be human. And when we take on this co-designing our own shared experience view of leadership, we can move from the individual into a co-created experience with integrated roles. Back to Freire, who said that teachers should not merely be depositing knowledge into students, but that everyone should simultaneously be a student and teacher, and similarly a designer and player, and a leader and follower, and that we co-create our experiences by integrating these roles. We do not abandon the individual by any means. Our individual experiences are still critical to our learning and development. We add that as part of this larger co-designing model with the roles that we take. The last leadership framework that kind of applies here is the leadership as practice framework, specifically to note that the word practice here doesn't just mean like practicing an instrument or continually trying to incubate a habit. A practice is a way of being and doing that is something that emerges. So leadership emerges through a dynamic participatory process, not static roles. This is how we are as a form of leadership. And it emphasizes relational interactions within a social and cultural context, which is how we're going to view tabletop role-playing games, as relational interactions within layers of a cultural and social contexts. So what is the role of the role-playing game in this view of leadership? Well, first, most simply, role-playing games offer a platform for experiential learning and collaborative storytelling. They are perfect activities to do both of these things. We get to do experiential learning and reflect on that experience because it is active and interactive. And when we want to engage in collaborative storytelling, that's inherently what this system of interaction is meant for. Further, though, role-playing games simulate co-designed experiences that mirror adaptive real-world dynamics, which is to say that players are not just the game master adapting the rules, but players are shaping their own experience as well as they are shaping the stories that they are telling together. And so they are co-designing this experience. And that is an example of those same types of dynamics of co-designing the experience we're having together and how we're having it. That we would like to replicate in other settings. And I say real world in quotes because gameplay is in and of itself a real experience that we have, not just a mirror for other experiences. So it serves well. And in order to capitalize on this, in the Lead RPG, we have these different levels of analysis, and we kind of frame them from the game or the group perspective, which is what I like to call a parallel process. In reality, our experience is not so fragmented that we have different parts of our brain, our character or player or person or human. But we can think about them in these little bit of compartmentalized ways as a way to try to make sense of all the complexity that's going on. The character is simply the person in the story, the role you are playing. The player is playing a game, and so they might be rolling dice and negotiating rules with each other. A person has a role in a social group. Maybe they bring the snacks, or they're the person who is always moving the group to have important conversations, whatever it may be. And then human, our social identities and other roles and other contexts, who we are in society, those are all present when we're playing this game, even if we may think at any one given moment we're being a character or a player. Similarly, there are different levels of analysis and frames of this group level of analysis. The stories that the group tells, if you view the group as the perspective that we're taking here, that's the unit, then the group is telling stories. And so those stories are happening in the narrative of the game. And the group also has a gaming environment. This is a psychological environment, which includes things like psychological safety and cohesion and creativity that are generated as the group develops through the act of playing the game. And so there is a quality of the group and the dynamics of the group in a gaming environment. Taken a step further, once the group begins to form or continues to form, they have a team culture as a group of people, especially if they are a team in other contexts. But even if they are just a gaming group, there is a team culture, norms about play, improvisation, things like saying yes, and creativity, different types of themes, ways of checking for consent. All of these things become norms within the team culture. And that is enacted through playing and debriefing the game, but can also then be a microcosm of the same playful norms we want in a learning organization, which is an organization that continuously expands its capacity to create desired results by nurturing new patterns of thinking and enabling individuals to see a whole together, which is what we were trying to do in a Lead RPG. So I'll kind of explain it further with this image as a metaphor. And this is the microcosm. You see all the players around. They have their sheets. They're interacting by playing a game. They can see. They have a sense of self of them as a player and also a sense of their character. And they can see each other as well and reflect back to each other our other views, triangulating our sense of our characters and our sense of self as players. We can also see this framework, these hexes in the imaginary environment that is being formed, the boundaries between what is the story and what is the group playing, and being able to see the roles that we are playing as players and as characters and the stories that we're creating and any parallels that are kind of happening between other contexts. And so this kind of exemplifies the metacognition by being able to see the roles and how we're interacting together. So when we move to an action learning cycle to try and build adaptive and transformative skills, this is also where integrating the leadership aspects of Lead RPG come into play. And I have our frames and levels of analysis here in each step of the cycle. On the left is the game set, which is first starts with intention, wanting to play, different types of play that are desired, picking a game system that we like, picking a setting or an adventure with themes that we like, and the players that we want to play with. And then preparing for that game session by creating characters or even a game master preparing to facilitate, and all the logistics too. Then in games, we have what's called session 0. That happens when we discuss this as a group and we kind of set shared expectations and get on the same page about the experience we're trying to create together. We may do some talk about consent and communication and also set each other up for a successful play experience. Then the actual gameplay itself, which involves role play, but also other forms of gameplay where we have the actual experience of playing. Synchronicity happens. We experience our roles. We get to experiment and express and tell stories, both intentional and kind of serendipitous at the same time. Following the gameplay, we debrief with those 3 levels of debriefing to be able to make meaning of our play experience and the meaning making that is the storytelling happening during the game in and of itself. And through that learning and reflection process, we can gain insight that informs how we show up in other contexts and may even shift our understanding of self and being in the world. And so the leadership frames are the other level of analysis, and they correspond directly, although it's not quite so simple because they can kind of all interact with each other. Coaching is part of setting an intention and going into a developmental experience with the goal of developing as an individual and a group. Session 0, which should happen intermittently throughout the gaming sessions together, and other forms of actual gaming activity do contribute to the group's development. And so the gaming activities in and of themselves are the group formation and development activities, including relationships and vulnerability, which do happen through role play and storytelling together and serve as a concrete experience. The reflection in the debrief can be guided and intentional to crystallize that learning and then set goals and intentions for putting that into practice. Essentially, this combination of this action learning cycle is that each step of the process builds upon the last and continues to evolve, just like the image of the Nautilus shell in the background, and nurtures a continuous learning process where we are rediscovering our roles, which is essential for leadership in complex organizations. So to summarize here, the Lead+RPG views leadership as co-designing a shared experience. It is dynamic, collaborative practice, fundamental to human nature, storytelling, roles, play, and culture. The Lead+RPG integrates frames and levels of analysis, fusing game and leadership development activity, in which players co-construct shared mental models, becoming aware and gaining agency over those models, also by embodying roles and gaining role awareness and agency there. And they perform cultural expressions in an experiential action learning cycle. This helps us facilitate adaptive team cultures, improvisation, and collective creativity in learning organizations. Thanks for playing, everybody. Please reach out on LinkedIn to me individually or to Game Dynamic Leadership on LinkedIn, and you can find us at gamedynamic.org/leadrpg.